We're going to keep it for about 1.5 years. We're going to work with it. We're going to do some training with it. But the best part is we get to take that dog everywhere with us. And I thought that that was the most important part of this program, because having very active children, I just didn't need to add one more thing to our overloaded schedule. And this was perfect because we just took the dog with us everywhere, whether it was a soccer game or a swim meet or a school activity. So it worked out perfect for our situation. And I was only going to do it once for my children. And here I am, 20 years later, 21 dogs later. And it was the best thing we did for our children, and also the best thing we did for me, and actually for my husband, because once he retired, it just gave us something else. So let me give you a little background on Canine Companions for Independence. In 1975, a woman by the name of Bonnie Bergen decided that there needed to be more assistance available to help the disabled community. There was such a strong organizations and strong groups of sight dogs that provided sight dogs, but there wasn't a good, strong service dog organization. So she started it in 1975 in Santa Rosa. As today, there are 5 centers across the nation, and we have, just at the last weekend's graduation, provided our 4,000th service dog. And so we're very proud of that.
No,
as of now, typically we are providing more highly skilled dogs, so we typically have somewhere around 600 dogs provided each year to those that need them. We have 4 different kinds of dogs. We have our service dogs, like what Felice is, and they are with adults who have disabilities. And the adult is sometimes in a wheelchair, but not always. As long as they are disabled and they can utilize the skills of the dog, most likely they can qualify. We also have our hearing dogs. For those that are hard of hearing, we have the alert dogs, and they're highly skilled in letting a person know if there's a smoke alarm going off, or a baby crying, or a speeding car approaching, something to that effect. They wake them up at night if there's anything. And for most of our hearing graduates, that means the most. They can sleep at night really comfortably, because they're not worried anymore if something's going to, break into the house, or the fire, or something to that effect. Then we have our facility dogs, and they work with individuals that work in institutions, whether it's a school for disabled children, in the classroom, or a hospital, or a rehab hospital center. Sometimes they work with physical therapists, and they just initiate movement for people. Oh, excuse me. That was a really nice speak, but yeah. And then we have our skilled companions. There needs to be a third party, a facilitator that manages the dog for the individual. We have a great need of skilled companion dogs, mainly for the autistic children these days. They do a wonderful service for them. They just, for some reason, if the autistic child cannot communicate or build a relationship with another human, they seem to be able to do that with the dog. They calm them down. The children are able to sleep more at night, so consequently the whole family gets to sleep at night. There's just a level of comfort that is provided for the autistic children that only these special dogs can provide. We are a completely nonprofit organization, funded only by donations and fundraisers, and the dogs are given completely free of charge to the individual. We have our own breeding program. That's one way that a lot of people volunteer. They are caretakers for the breeders, whether it is a male breeder or a female breeder. The female breeder caretakers, of course, have a little more work to do because the puppies are actually born in their home, and they take care of the puppies and start working with them at a pretty young age for the first 8 weeks of their life. And then the puppies come to us. I got this guy just almost a month ago. So he's only 12 weeks old. He's a big boy. His sister's only about half his size, and she also is up here in El Dorado Hills, raised by an 18-year-old boy. So, and this is where we start. This is my volunteer portion. I got him at 8 weeks old, and I already started working on the leash, toileting him. And most people go, oh my gosh, how could you do that 21 times, toilet train the puppy. But these dogs are so well bred, they're so smart and willing to please and just really quick. And the breeder caretakers have also litter box trained them, so they already have an idea of what it means. So in 2 days, he was already going to the front door and the back door to go out. And so, and he housebroke really quickly. They're also trained to go on command, so it's my responsibility to make sure that I get him out so that he has an opportunity to go on command. And that's very, very important for the graduate. So that when they go to a 5 or 6 hour appointment in a hospital, they can't just take the dog out with them. The dog has to be able to toilet before they go in and then hold it until they're given an opportunity to go again. And they're very capable of doing that. So I get the puppy for about 1.5 years. I'm required to have the dog sleep inside and crate trained. So they sleep in the house with us in a crate, and they like that. That crate becomes their safe space, their bedroom, and they go into it often. They really enjoy it. I'm required to go to 2 classes a month. Fortunately, in our area, the Sacramento area, we are the largest group of puppy raisers and volunteers in the nation. And we have the best contract trainer. She lives in Cameron Park, and she has classes throughout the week throughout the Sacramento area. And we really enjoy going to classes, meeting other volunteers. We have usually 80 to 100 puppies being raised in the Sacramento area at any given time. I'm not exactly sure how many graduates we have. We have lots of graduates in there. My main job is to socialize, and so that's what we do. As the puppy is able and as you're comfortable, you just take him everywhere with you. I've been doing this so long that I just take him with me. And even if I go into Costco, he's going to go in with me, and I don't. We may have an accident, but Costco's the best place to have an accident because it's cement floor. So, and I just always make sure that I have a lot of stuff with me to clean it up, and we all learn from the experience. That's really only happened a couple of times for me, so that's really nice. At the end of the 18 months, 16 to 19 months actually, then we take them back to Santa Rosa to the training center, and we turn them in. I just did that on Friday. I turned in my 20th dog, a big yellow lab, and that was very emotional, very hard, but then I was able to come home with this puppy still with me and focus on him. That's why I always overlap the puppies. The baby puppy learns a lot from the older one, and the older one learns from the baby one too. Learns tolerance and space issues and things like that. So I left him there with the trainers. He will go through an intense training period now. They will take the skills that I've taught him, and they will enhance them. They will take such as the shake command, which I used as a greeting, and they will use that to do the switch, or pushing the pad to open the door at the mall, that sort of thing. So everything that I've taught him, they will add to that. But I taught him about 40 skills, 40 commands. By the time he is ready to graduate, he will know about 60. 50 to 60, depending on where he'd be best used. Right now, he's going to go through an intense period of just evaluation, physical evaluations and health evaluations, make sure that he can do the job physically. And then they go through temperament testing, and then they're put on a string. Usually, to start with, there's about 12 dogs on a string with a trainer and maybe an assistant with the trainer. And then for the next 6 to 9 months, he will work with that trainer. And hopefully, nothing happens dramatically within that time period, and hopefully he will graduate in 6 to 9 months with somebody like Peggy. Not all of them graduate. Standards are very high with canine companions. Only about half of our dogs graduate. And the other half, sometimes they go to alternative placement. We just had one recently that was sent over to Dogs for Diabetics. And so she is going to have further training so that she can go live with the family and alert the parents if their child has low blood sugar. And because these parents were having to get up every hour in the night to just check.
I think I met that later.
Did you? And so, and then otherwise, many of our dogs have become therapy dogs, pet therapy dogs. They're very, very nice, highly trained pet dogs, but they need jobs. So oftentimes, they go on to do things like go to visit children in Shriners and go to elderly care homes and that sort of thing. A lot going to libraries and become reading dogs. So there's always opportunity for the dogs. It's almost impossible to adopt one of these dogs. They're highly sought after. Usually, the puppy raiser gets the first call, and I know I personally have a long waiting list of people that would like to adopt my dogs if they ever become available, which I haven't had very many. So, if you can always call and ask about the release dog adopting program. Sometimes they take applications. Usually they're not. They don't have enough dogs available to meet the applications that they have on hand. At the end of the 6 to 9 months, there's a 2-week time period where the next people in line on the waiting list get called to Santa Rosa. They go there, they stay in the dormitories. It's a beautiful campus. Charles Schultz from the Snoopy character, he and his wife for many years, and continues on even after Charles's passing, have been very, very supportive of CCI. They donated the land where the campus is and many of the buildings there. We have some big donors that built dormitories so that when the individuals, the recipients get called, they can go to Santa Rosa, they stay in the dorms. Almost everything is covered financially for them. They have to pay for their transportation to and from. They need to have a car available to go on field trips and other outings. And then occasionally they go out to lunch or out to dinner, and they need to be able to provide that. Otherwise, most of the lunches are provided. They do need to provide their own breakfast, but the dormitory situation has a huge common room for eating and a big kitchen so they can cook and provide meals for themselves if they need to. It's a wonderful experience. I'm sure I'll let Peggy talk about that a little bit. We have usually 15 to 18 participants in a graduation class. And so they become a big family unit, and they bond together and they work together. And for many of them, it's the only time they've been able to really connect with other people in similar situations and be able to work with others that, hey, I'm having trouble with this. Oh, well, I worked it out this way. Usually the disabled community isn't close enough to be able to connect like that, and this gives them an opportunity to do that. At the end of the 2 weeks, well, somewhere in between there, they work with several dogs, and then about halfway through the first week, they're pre-matched with a dog, and then they start working with that dog full time. The dog goes to the dormitory room with them and goes with them everywhere. And the dogs are highly skilled. They know exactly what they're doing, and that's the time when the trainers have to train the individuals on how to utilize the skills and how to improve the skills to meet their needs and add skills to what the dogs already have. Then there's a huge graduation ceremony and luncheons, and the puppy raiser gets called, and you get to go spend time with your dog's new partner. And then there's a big ceremony where you actually walk up on the stage, you hand the leash over to the individual, everybody cries and claps, and you know, it's an amazing experience. You take people from all walks of life and they get all connected with these incredible dogs. And, I can't begin to tell you what it's meant to our family. And so I'm going to let Peggy talk a little bit about her experience.
Yeah, Kathy's a wealth of knowledge. Yeah, I got Felice about 1.5 years ago, and it's a couple of year process, so I'm going to that saying Kathy. That's probably what she was talking about. But anyway, yeah, Felice and I went through the 2 weeks, and it was not, they have dormitories, but it's really like a 4-star hotel up there. My room, you know, I could have like, 5 guests or something. It was so big. And so Felice and I went through the class, and like she said, I'm on Facebook, and so I've got all these people that I would never have met with dogs, and we all get to connect and share stories, and it's really great. What I think you guys might really enjoy is seeing what the dog can do. Right? Obviously, and we're talking about space. This Halo has always got to be in her space. I have pictures in the back of the car. My poor dog is in the corner, and the puppy's across the whole back seat. And so she puts up with her. But she'll miss her when she gets turned in. And my daughter's already planning to get a puppy in March because she turns in May. So she's going to do the overlap because we saw at graduation that she's going to be a mess. When
I turn my dog in, I don't cry much. I'm just not a crier. And I've gotten used to letting go, which my children really appreciated because I let them go, leave the nest much easier than I would have because I was used to letting the dogs go. And Monica just fell apart. I was holding her up, and it was my dog that was turning in, but she was attached to him too. So.
Well, would you take Halo?
Sure. Okay, you finally get to see me.
Okay, sorry. All right, Halo. So Felice loves to please, but she's also very social. So that my challenge with her is to keep her, when I go out in public and stuff, look at her. Everybody wants to pet her and come up to her, and I'm kind of a softie, and so I let them quite often. But I can tell her behavior changes because if someone will come up to say hi to me, she's the first one to meet them. And that's a no-no, because they're supposed to just be invisible, so to speak, in public. They're not supposed to be. So anyways, we work on that, but she's just a love. She'll do anything for me. So some basic things that they know are things like Felice.
You can tell by her expression, she would rather be.
So this is called a lap. So she'll come up here, and a lot of times they'll use this to bring me things that she's retrieved, my phone, my keys, things like that. Please. Felice, sit. Speak. So I use that when I yell and no one hears me. I have her start barking, and then my family knows to come see what I need. So that's been quite handy. Felice, visit. I love this. This is visits. She just comes and puts her head on my lap, and she'll just give me some attention. One of the things she does for me in the mornings is she will push my legs with her nose. She'll just push them off the bed so that I can sit up, and then she can pull off socks, things that I'm wearing. She'll does laundry. She'll take towels out of the washer and hand them to me from the front, and she strips the bed for me to do sheets. She can grab the corners, and she likes doing that. She likes to be up on the bed, jump around, and get the sheets. And one of the other things that she does for me is I need help sometimes with the foot plate. And so when I come out of the restroom, she's waiting for me to put it down. It's like, and then she'll actually even help me put my feet on it. I'm a little bit stiff this morning, so we'll see if I can have her do something. Please, can you tug? There you go. Push. Good girl. Get ready to do this one. Push. I don't know if you can see she's pushing my feet.
Yeah, she's a little distracted.
Yeah. Come on. Can you push? Please, push. Push. Okay, I'll do this one. Oh, I got that one. This one. Okay, push. This one, push. Other way.
Just gonna put it on first.
I know, okay. Now, can you push? Push. That's it, push. 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 Push it up there. Push it up there. Good girl, my leg's in the way otherwise. And then she'll do the opposite. I'll say, okay, shake. And then she'll, which is, I taught her that. And it's just using the commands that they gave us, push and shake. So, and then I was looking at the light switches around here. They're, we could try it. See if she can turn the light off.
You want to do over there, or do you want to
Yeah.
go over here?
Well, over there might be easier for me to reach. We'll see if she can. Now, I don't have her do this very often because I'm able to do that. So, but I like to keep her in practice.
Because if you're in bed and you need the light turned off.
Right, so I can teach her to go turn the light on in another room if I need her to. You just have to train them to do that. Felice. Light. Light. There you go. There you go. Light. Here, let's do this one. Okay, switch. Yeah, that's it. Come on, switch. There you go. Normally they will turn light means turn on the light, and they use their snout to push it, and then switches to use the paw to bring it down. Felice, heel. Down. And one of the commands that we use for them is roll. Doesn't mean to roll over, it just means roll on your back so that I can check and make sure she doesn't have any ticks or anything from being outside. Felice, roll.
How old are they?
Roll. She's 3. Yeah. And
this one's just a year old.
And
1 year old.
And one of the things that is amazing is that you can just think of it, you can teach it to them. And I'm just amazed that of the things that she can do that are specifically for me. And but the biggest thing I didn't realize was the emotional attachment. I mean, she's just love her, and she's my friend, she's my companion, and my family feels good because they know they can leave me at home alone, and I've got someone who can take care of me if I were to take a fall. She can bring me my phone. Oh, that's a fun one. We'll have to show that.
She's clearly focused on, is that
Yeah.
Look what you look for in the breathing, that ability.
Their focus.
Yes. To stay focused in the midst of
Yeah.
lots of
Yeah.
distractions.
Uh-oh.
And I have a very heavy-duty case on my phone.
Good.
And let's see, we can put it up here. Oh, get the phone. There.
Uh-oh, there was a smell.
Felice, here. Here. Excuse me. Felice.
She make a little
She
game
likes
of
to
it?
visit. She wanted to go see who else was around.
She wanna make a
And it's,
little game of that.
and it's not even, she's very light with her mouth. They don't get it all slobbery and stuff like that. I don't know how they teach them that. But, so this is Felice, and I'm gonna be skydiving in, early next year. She doesn't get to go with me, but because they've done so much for my family and me that, I want to do what I can to raise money. So I'm going to skydive, like I say, next year, and all the money that I raise is going to go back to Canine Companions. So,
I got a question.
yeah.
Is she taught to dial 911?
No, she's just talked to bring me the phone to do
But
that.
if you're unconscious or something, she has a lever she can push for 911 or something?
You know, if I had one of the phones that, because this is it. So, but if I had some kind of phone, I bet you could teach them.
Many
to,
graduates
like, speed dial.
do.
They?
That live alone, and they have
Right.
a special button
Right.
on the
Yeah.
phone. And yes, the dog is trained to go push that,
Yeah.
and then they automatically know to come. And then oftentimes the dog is trained then to open the door.
Right, yeah, she can open and close doors. My husband has her letting herself out in the morning to go do her business, come back in and close the door. And while he's in bed. I thought that was pretty good.
You can see the relationship with Peggy and her family has changed because they're no longer her gophers. They don't have to go get things for her. And I love the story where one day Peggy needed something, and her daughter was in her bedroom doing her homework, and she said, "Monica, come get whatever."
Right.
And Monica yelled, "Well, why? Where's Felice?" And she said, "Oh, Felice is sleeping so peacefully, I don't want to disturb her." And Monica said, "No, that's not my job anymore."
It's like, get your dog to get it. I'm like, oh, but she's so cute, she's sleeping.
Now, if you notice, Felice is not wearing a cape. Most of our dogs have capes. The graduates have the blue capes. The puppies have the yellow capes. But Felice had a little sensitivity issue with the cape going around her. So they allowed her to wear the bandana instead, because she's a perfect dog, and if that's all it was,
Right.
it doesn't matter.
And you're starting. She was like the pioneer. Now you see them more often now, because they used to release them, because that was, you couldn't have a dog walking along and the dog stopping and scratching and doing all this stuff. It would be, kind of a pain for the person. But growing up as a puppy, she didn't seem to have as much a problem with it. But when she came, and this is easier for me to put on actually, so I think it works for both of us.
Our first dog went to Alaska, and everybody always asks, "Oh gosh, how can you let them go? It just must have been it's so painful," and it is. I have to admit, it was the hardest thing we ever did as a family, was to walk up on that stage and give our dog away, knowing we'd never see him again because he was going to Alaska. But it was also the greatest thing we ever did as a family. And after he was with her only about 7 months, she was a woman like Peggy with multiple sclerosis, but was determined to live alone and remain independent without caregivers. And the dog, she started having an issue where she could not, she slumped forward, she lost control of her torso muscles, and she could not force her body to sit back up, and she started to have a lot of pressure on her lungs and literally started to suffocate. And she started to panic because she thought, oh, now this is it. And the dog recognized that she was in distress, and he figured out what he should do, and he very gently went over to her, and he pushed his nose between her legs and her chest, and he very gently pushed her up. And she was a good-sized woman. It took a lot of effort. He was a big dog, a strong dog, but he was able to push her up so she could breathe again. She wrapped her arm around the handles on her wheelchair so she could stay upright, and then he went and got her the phone so she could call for help. But she truly believed that he saved her life, and then that became a command to push her up when she needed it. And so that was really, really important for my children to be a part of that. And it was such a good experience for them that 2 of them that went away to school raised puppies when they were away at school. The one that didn't go away went to Sac State and continued helping me here. And Monica's plans are to raise puppies when she goes away to college. It's really good. It's a good way to transition into college life. And everybody wants to be your friend, because everybody is, my boys would say, "Oh my gosh, they're such chick magnets." And all their friends would come over and say, "Oh, you mean we're not taking the dog to the movies?" And so, okay, I guess we'll take the dog to the movies, Yes.
I have a question about the canines for the diabetics.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned that they went to families with children with diabetes.
Not all of them, that was just that particular case.
So there is an organization
There-
that trains dogs for diabetics.
There are two in the Bay Area. One is called Dogs for Diabetics, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but you can find them online.
So the dogs are actually trained to.
Right.
They're trained to alert
smell,
to
yeah.
the fluctuation of, yeah.
They can smell it.
And epilepsy, I mean, it's amazing.
That's what was my question, was about seizure disorder.
Yeah,
I know that there are dogs for that too, but
Now, our dogs are not trained for those
Right.
sorts of things, but they're very trainable, so, you know, like this particular dog was easily trained for that with this other organization. And that particular dog wasn't suitable for anything else, or not within our organization, but it was great for that. We do work with other organizations. I have personally 2 dogs, one that went with the National Disaster Search Dog Foundation. He was just so active and prey-driven that he was perfect. He went with a fireman in Los Angeles and went to work with him every day and just was available if he needed to search. I have another one that became a drug sniffing dog, and she went to U.S. Customs and worked in Miami Airport, which is one of the busiest. So she was,
TSA has.
yeah.
TSA. So if you have a dog that you've trained, but you think they're not going to work out, or if they don't graduate, whatever, then you go to another organization?
We don't.
saying,
We
how
don't.
is that, the Santa Rosa facility
Right,
does?
they do. They
So they'll-
have,
They'll coordinate
things
with
that
the
they
other
look for.
organizations?
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
they kind of know what to
they're the
look for.
trainers, they're the professionals. They know, and they're the ones that facilitate that. Did you have a question? No? You
I have a question, yes. As you get so attached to the dog, I'm wondering about the dog's attachment to you
Okay,
also.
yeah, that's a good question.
that is good.
Because they only use labs and golden retrievers, and most of them are a cross of the two. And part of the reason, you know, they're very willing to work, they're smart enough, but not too smart, and they're easily adaptable. And that's one thing that they really look for when they are going to graduate a dog. If the dog isn't adaptable and they start having some kennel stress, then they release them and they go into a home. It just wasn't the right thing for them. But these dogs are very adaptable. And like I have a friend that turned in a dog recently, and he just said, you know, I just feel so bad. What's he doing in the kennel right now? And I said, you know what? He's not sitting there pining for you.
Right.
He isn't. He's already in love with his trainer and with the kennel staff that come and take care of him and play with them and feed him and work with them. And he's got his kennel mates too, the other dogs, and these dogs love other dogs too. I said, he won't forget you. When you get to go see him at graduation, if hopefully he graduates, he's going to remember you. That will spark the memory, and he'll never forget you, but he's not pining for you. I'm not sure that Ken appreciated that, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
We laugh when the new people are turning in their dogs, and they, you know, and I tell them, I said, it's tough, and don't, as soon as you hand off the leash to the trainer, make a turn and head out that door. Don't watch the dog, because if they turn around and look at you, you feel so bad. If they don't turn around and look at you, you feel so bad. So, you know, they're on to bigger and better things than, you know, just being stuck with us. Even though our home is great, you know, there's more that they can do. And so that's the way we have to
And
look
I
at
stay
it.
in touch with the person who raised her. Yeah, she's in Idaho, and yeah, you know, they put a whole book together with photographs and, you know, what they've done. I mean, it's, oh yeah, and they brought gifts and, you know, and so yeah, she gets to see everything she does. So the puppy raisers love to be in touch with the graduates.
And the other great thing about Canine Companions for Independence, since they are so large and they have a lot of ongoing support, they don't just hand you the dog and say, here.
Right, good luck.
They have ongoing support. The dog is not given to the graduate, she's on loan. So they make sure that that the dog is well cared for, is doing the job they were trained to do. And if not, then they have the option to take the dog back and, maybe give it to
They don't
someone
want it
else.
back, and they
No,
want-
they don't want it.
Right, but
They
if
want
you,
it.
it'd have to be pretty extreme, and she has to be certified to be in public. So she has to go through certification, 1 year, 3 year, and now every 3 years I have to show them that I can conduct myself in public and keep her safe. So when people try to do things like, I was in a restaurant the other day, we were the last people in it, and the guy came by, the manager, and before I knew it, I was talking to someone else, and he had her on the floor, turned over, and he's rubbing her belly and doing all this stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, we're in a restaurant, the hair's got to be flying, but we're the last ones in here. But what you say to them is, I'm responsible for making sure she behaves properly in public, and I could lose my certification if she's not behaving. That was such a better line then. Don't do that. Please don't do that. So it kind of puts the onus on me. But so that's why. I mean, think about it. You're in a restaurant, and then you're looking to see if he washed his hands. Whatever. So, and they just love dogs, but it's like even the restaurant people have to understand. And some don't want you in there at all. I haven't come across that, but
I've come
Yeah.
across it twice, and it was just,
education.
a matter of education. This restaurant wasn't a different ethnic restaurant, and they didn't speak English, and so they just didn't understand. And so, but it's public awareness. 20 years ago when we started doing this, it was really hard. We'd walk in someplace, and they look at us strangely. Now
It's
people
pretty common,
understand. Yeah.
Now we have the other problem. People are buying vests online and putting them on their dogs and taking their pets places. And so you can see the behavior of these animals versus someone's pet. And so, they have little teeny chihuahuas, and then they put a vest on, and it's like, it's a service dog. It's like, does she pick up your phone? What does she do?
Yeah.
So-
We also have a lot of other organizations that are training dogs that just don't meet the standards. They just don't use necessarily the right breed of dogs. They don't have the breeding program that we have, and they don't have the follow-up care, and they charge a lot of money too. Thousands and thousands of dollars. And most people in this situation
Don't have money to.
can't afford that. That's the beauty of Canine Companions. So, did you have a question?
One right here.
Yes, you mentioned that they're mostly golden retrievers,
And labs.
and do they have miniature golden retrievers, or are they all the 40 pounds and up?
They're all 40 pounds and up.
Yes.
They try to keep them on this smaller scale for the most part. They're easier to manage. They're easier to sit under a chair or under an airline chair. But then they do have the larger dogs, and they need the bigger ones too. Some people have to use them for like transferring in and out of the chair and in and out of the bed and in
Pulling
and out of the
chairs.
car. And they're trained to pull chairs oftentimes if the individual isn't using the motorized chair. They've tried many, many different kinds of breeds. When I first started 20 years ago in class, you would see we had standard poodle, we had Australian Shepherd and Border Collies. For the hearing program, they used Shelties and Corgis, but that's all they could do because they weren't large enough to be able to do anything else. So they needed a more versatile dog in the program. The poodles were great, the standard poodles,
Smart.
but they required a lot of care. And oftentimes had skin
Grooming
issues and
issues.
allergies that the average disabled person didn't need to add one more thing to their bucket. And so, and then like the Australian Shepherds, I love the story where they say, we need a dog that we can train to open the refrigerator. And they do. These dogs are trained to pull open the refrigerator and get out whatever is asked, a bottle of water, whatever. But the Australian Shepherds are just too smart. And if suddenly they were home alone and they were bored and think, oh,
I think I'll make a
I'll
sandwich.
see what's in the refrigerator, and they would do that. These guys don't, you know, they're not quite that smart, that sharp, so, yes.
What about a German Shepherd?
German Shepherds, they've long been, you know, service dog breeds. But even guide dogs don't use them anymore for the most part.
Because they're too
It's only because they do have that protective instinct. And they tend to overbond with their individual because they know they're responsible for them. And so they can become a little too protective. And you just don't want that out in public.
Okay, makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. Yes.
How long is the waiting list to get a service dog?
They will say it takes up to 2 years, but for the most part, it's about a year. The application process is the most lengthy because it's so in-depth. Because you fill out application after application, and your doctor needs to fill out parts, just so that they understand your needs, your situation, your family, so that they make sure that they give you exactly the right partner. And they're very good at what they do,
Yeah,
too.
amazing.
99% of the time, they've already got an idea of who they're going to match the individual with before they even meet them.
Yeah.
And so, and as far as the application process goes, you start with a prelim app and then
Yeah, it was pretty fresh in my mind. Yeah, you do an application, and your spouse has to do an application, and then you have to do an autobiography, and then you take photos of your home and your yard, and then you have your doctor, and I had my doctor and my physical therapist, and then once they say, okay, that law looks good, then they call you. It could be 4, 6, 8 weeks. They call you for a phone interview. And then they call to schedule a phone interview, and then it could be another 6 weeks before the call comes. Then you're on the phone with them for about 45 minutes, and then if all goes well there, then they'll send you a letter saying that we're going to invite you to a personal interview, and then that could be another 4 or 5 months, and then they call you up and you go to Santa Rosa and you have a personal interview, and then and they show you the dogs and things like that. And then once they accept you into that, then you wait. And so they told me service dogs take the longest because there's a big need for them, and they have to be like the super
highest
dogs.
skill.
So there's a longest wait for them. But someone had to cancel, so by the time I got my application and everything, it hadn't even been a year. I mean, and we just dropped everything and went. And it was meant to be because this dog she turned in on my birthday. She graduated on some other significant day. It was just everything lined up, and so she was definitely waited for
We
me.
know our dogs, especially, right from day one, they're tracking them and figuring out, they're putting different graphs together to see which dogs are more successful, which breeders are more successful, which areas of puppy raising and training and that sort of thing, so that they're constantly
their
trying
history.
to improve. We do know their history.
Yeah.
And if there's anything, like if Halo were to be scared by the fire truck out there, that's listed on our monthly report. So they make sure that that's not something that's going to carry over later on when she's with somebody in a wheelchair and all of a sudden she gets frightened by a fire truck and bolts. I mean, that could be
Right.
really harmful.
Now she's not going to be afraid of I blow dry my hair, she comes running because she likes me to blow her face. Most dogs don't like that in their face. She's like,
And we have that opportunity as puppy raisers to expose them to all these things. And that's really important. That's a valuable part of their training. We don't have children in the home anymore, so I do everything I can to go spend weeks with my grandchildren, or any child that I see in the grocery store and they want to come say hi. I always let them come say hi. It's really important. We expose them to cats and all kinds of things. So,
I have 2 cats.
I always thought that if the dog's wearing a coat, that you're not allowed to pet.
You're not. I mean, you don't want to approach. You can go up and ask. And oftentimes, they might say yes. It depends on the situation. It depends on the individual. It depends on the dog. You know, I personally let people pet my dogs. I think it's important, but it's gotta be because
Especially the ones in the yellow are more, you know,
Approachable.
they need to,
it's
you know,
a
have
valuable part
interaction.
of their
Right.
training. But like Felice, you saw how distracted she gets. Peggy doesn't need that. She needs Felice to help her, not have to manage her a lot if somebody's, you know, distracting her. So it's all a matter of how you approach and ask. And there are some that just say, no, sorry, she's working.
Right.
And, you know, you just have to respect that. But you can always come up to me, and as long as he's being a good boy, and it's my idea, not his.
Right.
You know, we don't want him solicitous, like she can be.
Yeah. That's why I think they match her with me too, because I can be firm and at the same time, you know, because they just know that about her. She's very, you know, she just wants to be loved by everybody.
ADA law is written that you cannot ask the person what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
You can ask if it's a service dog, and you can ask what service the dog performs, but that's it. And unfortunately, like Peggy was talking about, there are a lot of, you know, fake service dogs out there. A lot of people use, they say they're disabled, and they may very well be disabled. And so then they use that as an excuse to bring their pet dog in. And that's, all of our breeding program is right in Santa Rosa. And so the breeder caretakers are all within 100 miles of Santa Rosa. And then, let's say there's 10 puppies in a litter, then two of them are sent to each region, typically. We are the largest region in the Northwest. We also have national headquartered in Santa Rosa, so we have more puppies and more volunteer opportunities available. But they're growing all over because there's such a great need. The need is so great, and of course.
And it's a great
this
job for
economy.
people who retire
Yes.
to raise puppies, because they don't want a 15-year commitment to have a pet, but they love companions. And with these, they can go everywhere with you on vacations or wherever they can go. So retired folks are ideal.
The other
for
thing
it.
is you can co-raise with somebody, where you share the responsibility with somebody. I've done a few where I start the puppy, and I get the puppy completely housebroken and completely, you know, able to go anywhere. And then the dog goes to the next puppy raiser that then takes it to work and wherever. And then the dog comes back to me only on vacations or whatever. So thanks for coming and listening to my obsession.